Wait for it. Wait for it. And we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. And we do dysfunction well, Nick. We do.
I'm an expert.
Absolutely. So without further ado, we're going to let our lovely guests introduce themselves. We're going to go in alphabetical order because grunts know how to read people. Ignore the stereotypes. And we're going to start with Miss Erin Lewis.
Well, I am, like you said, Erin Lewis. I'm a former adult entertainer or exotic dancer, and I've written 3 nonfiction books about all that and several horror books with Hellbound Publishing.
Okay. Well, anybody that's worked customer service can probably write a good horror novel. So,
right?
Have you ever taken your worst customers, because I'm sure this isn't your only customer service job, and killed them in fiction just so you feel better? I remember you, Mr. Not Tipper, or whoever, I worked as a barista, so we got some of those.
Yeah, I'm actually afraid to confirm or deny any of that.
So in a hypothetical universe, maybe some of the people you did with new names and new identities.
I danced for over 20 years, and I've had plenty of inspiration. Both customers and coworkers. So.
And while I do know people how to read the alphabet, we're going to let ladies go first. So is it X-Tina or just Tina?
Oh, it's X-Tina. Yes. Kind of like Xmas or something, but yeah, X-Tina. Introduce myself, X-Tina Marie. I dark poet princess. I don't. That's all I have, James. What else do I do?
That's pretty much it.
There you go.
Okay. Speaking of James, we got Mr. James H. Longmore. So can you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers?
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, first of all, apologies for the accent. I don't come with subtitles, unfortunately. So I'll speak slowly. I had to learn to speak slowly when I moved here, so people could understand me. James H. Longmore. I'm a horror author and co-owner of Hellbound Books Publishing with X-Tina. We are business partners in the venture, which has been going, 8 years now? Coming up to 8 years.
Yeah.
And we are publishers of horror, noir, and all things dark. We are publishers of Erin's 3 books now, I believe. One she co-wrote with, I cannot pronounce his name, Armand Rosamilla.
Armin Rosamelia, I think.
I was close.
Yeah.
I was closer than I normally get with names. And 2, one that literally was published last week called Colleen, which is an absolute stonker of a book. That's me, I guess. Just little old me.
Outstanding. And the next part of the introduction, dear listener, is how we first found them. So this one we actually found through Stabby, the queen of horror. She found you guys on Twitter, and she sent me the link, and I reached out, and the rest, as they say, is history. She likes to stab people. It's just her thing. So, of course, she was all about your guys.
So I have to say, Madam Stabby Stab, what were your parents thinking? Really? Goodness sake. Couldn't you have called me Sharon or something?
It's one of those names.
They were the name.
Something
it was a name that was earned, not given.
Even better.
Roman mother, Sicilian father, it was bound to happen.
Full respect.
I mean, you don't know this, but her husband, Nick, has been killed and revived at least a dozen times in the decade I've known. Overtime with him.
I got a nice Lazarus pit.
All right. And because none of you have...
Hold on. Before we continue, let's just put it out there for all of the YouTubes so we don't get censored. The knives are fake. They're props. I use the real ones off script. Joking.
I don't know. They feel pretty
Nick,
weird.
as a law enforcement officer, if they were really doing it, wouldn't they also say it that way? I'm just asking hypotheticals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, I don't want you to die tonight, Nick. So we're gonna move on before she gets
Oh,
mad.
I'm on the other side of the country. I'm good.
Okay. All right, so you're saved today by the flight.
Not Friday.
Uh-oh. All right, so we're going to have to say a moment of silence for Nick. He will not be with us next week. With that being said, the next part of the introduction, since none of you have been here before, you got to answer the religion question. Are all three of you ready for this? There is a wrong answer.
Totally. Bring it on.
All right, so the first one, Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
Firefly.
Oh, that's an excellent answer. What about you, Aaron?
Shiny.
The only of those I've seen would have been Star Wars.
That's a good answer. We'll accept it. All right, James.
Okay.
Star Trek. Can I do it? Yeah, I can still do it. Star Trek. All the way. Absolutely. There you go. Nanu.
I remember that. Mork from Ork.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, and because we are polytheistic, Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, or The Witcher?
Game of Thrones. All the way.
Xtina has opinions. I like this. What about you, Aaron?
Pick your favorite one. I've never actually seen any of those shows.
Do you have a favorite fantasy IP?
No, not that I can think of. I'm pretty much into the horror and thriller and crime type stuff. So I honestly can't really pick one.
Stabby, stop nodding along.
I have a question for her then. Halloween,
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, or Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, it's Nightmare on Elm Street all the way.
All
I
right.
still have Nightmare.
I was
Freddy's
actually
still
going to
in my
ask
dreams,
that to
chasing me
everybody,
around.
Stabby. That was already an extra religion question because they're from a horror publishing company. So, Xtina, did you have a favorite horror property? Was it Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, or Halloween?
Definitely Halloween. Yeah. And I enjoy both the originals and the Rob Zombie remakes. So Halloween all the way.
All right. What about you, James?
I'm going to say Hellraiser. I know it wasn't on the list, but
It was original. I almost put it in there as one of the.
yeah, it should have been on the list, to be honest with you. So I just want to lodge a complaint with the management. And as for the previous question, that obviously I'm with Erin. I'm really not. So I'm going to go with Paw Patrol.
I'll accept that. As someone who's had young kids, we'll take that.
I have a good friend who has younger children. Mine are a little bit old for that. And I used to watch it with my daughter, but because the new movie is out, and he said it is brilliant. So yeah, I need to borrow somebody's sort of 4-year-old to go and see the Paw Patrol. If I go on my own, it looks a bit odd, you know. If I sit there by myself with my popcorn, people, you know.
I mean, there are grown men that are bronies, so I imagine you could get away with it in this age. No one will laugh.
You got to be careful.
You go in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, while all the kids are at school, and then it's no longer weird.
There you go. That's an idea.
She's a thinker, our Stabby Stab.
There you go. I'll maybe do that.
All right. And because we are not knuckle-dragging troglodytes, we have evolved since we left the army. Coffee, tea, and how do you take it? Coffee or tea?
Coffee or tea.
Yes, I said and. I corrected myself. Thank you.
You know, I actually like both. One, tea plain, and coffee with cream and sugar.
All right, you say plain. Do you mean like black tea, hot and plain, Earl Grey?
Actually, I drink a lot of green tea in the afternoon.
Okay.
But yeah, coffee in the morning and tea in the afternoon. And I microwave it just to make sure that I'm offending James over there.
Just shaking his head.
I'm disappointed, Erin. I really am.
What about you, Xtina?
I don't drink coffee. I don't need. I'd rather be sleeping in the morning. I don't want to drink coffee. And iced tea. I do iced tea a lot. So. Yeah.
Okay. Are you from the South?
You know, I identify as being from the South.
Close enough, we claim you.
Yes. I'm in
I'll-
Tennessee. So.
I've talked to family in Tennessee myself and in Georgia, and they tell me Virginia does not count as the South, but what do they know?
Yeah, well, we actually, where I live, I share a street with Virginia, and we don't talk to them. They're not. Yeah, we just.
Oh, you're right on the border. Okay, I know.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, the Virginians are right there.
Yeah, I get it. It's cool. I mean, it's hard to compete with that much awesomeness.
It's true.
But all right, and James, I am assuming with your accent you're going to say tea, but I'm going to give you a chance to tell us anyway.
Yeah, tea and Yorkshire tea as well, which I can actually get. There's some places around here I can actually get Yorkshire tea, which is the best tea. And I have it. I just quit taking sugar, so I just have it with milk. And you never ever put the milk in first, because that is just a crime where I'm from.
Hell no! I believe you get your ass kicked doing something like that around here.
You'll be ostracized in Yorkshire if you put your milk in first. Absolutely.
There's
My
people that
first
put the milk in
published-
first.
I mean, I could see it. People do it with coffee.
No, they don't.
How do you know how much to put in? It's crazy. It's crazy. Crazy people.
Then milk.
I was a barista to pay for college. I talked to a lot of people about their coffee habits. Just like there are heathens that put the milk in before the cereal. It happens.
I always thought there was an accident. Like you weren't really paying attention. All of a sudden there's the milk and you're like, shoot.
Why have I got milk in a bowl? I'm going to put something in there now, Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Those people must live in Virginia.
Yes.
Leave it to the Texan to be all weird. All right. So I actually have this running debate because my first publisher was from Britain. I can't remember where. I just remember it was where Boudica was from because we've had that conversation. But all of England is London to me. So, North London, South London, London. It's all London.
It isn't. It is. London is London. I mean, I'm a northerner, which is like the proper side of England. London, to be fair, with all due respect, London is there to take money off you tourists, and they're very, very good at that. And I see a lot of people, I've actually met people here who said, I say I'm from England. Oh, that's in London, isn't it? No,
that was me. Was that me?
It was you. It was actually Xtina. Yes, it was you. You can say that. No, it's not. And London is not. I always say, if you go to England, you've got to, because it's only small, it's only little. You can jump on the train. We actually have public transport there, unlike Texas, which I think it's one train in all of Texas, and it's broken. So, but you can go anywhere. It's so small. You can be in Scotland, and there's some beautiful, beautiful places outside of London. Once you've seen, the House of Parliament and Buckingham Palace, which is just a big building, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of great places. So, don't just stick to London, have you? The money's sucked out of you.
Oh, so it's like Las Vegas.
It is like Vegas, but with a bit more class, to be honest.
I do enjoy watching the videos of the Palace Guard where the tourists.
Aaron has just given me a death stare. I'm sorry.
I enjoy watching the videos where the tourists get too cheeky with the Palace Guards and then they shove them back. Glorious to watch. I've dealt with people getting too close when I was on guard duty, and I've always wanted to have the authority to do that. So I'm kind of watching out of jealous rage that I wasn't able to do that. But it's glorious to see.
Well, they're not supposed to move, but if you do get too close, I mean, remember they're armed and they're not pretend guns. They can shoot you.
Yeah,
if they feel that they're threatened or the royalty's threatened. So you've been warned.
All right,
Are you from Vegas, Aaron?
No, California, but I lived in there. I lived in Vegas for just about 2 years.
Okay.
So, and then the first book actually that Hellbound published is really set in Vegas. So I did really paint quite the seedy picture of Vegas.
Do you miss it, Aaron?
Never. No, it was like an armpit. It was awful. Yeah.
I was born and raised in Las Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah. My
actually, and I don't want to go back.
So for context, then my my club and my setting in the book. It's about a stripper serial killer, and she really starts out by killing other strippers, which is funny because I just talked to a bunch. When I told my friends, my ex coworkers and stuff, they were like, "Yeah," but it's set in North Vegas, so you understand what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, it gets a little sketchy out there. And once you get away, like there's the glitz and the glam and all that stuff. And there's some really, that's why I was giving you that look, is because there's some really, really, really like sweet, nice, awesome parts of Vegas. And like I live towards Summerlin, but yeah, it was really hard because it was so, for me, it just felt really superficial. And especially not coming from there. Everything felt just fake and glitter. So. I'm from California, where we're all fake. We just don't admit it.
I went to a writing convention in Vegas. It was at the Sam's Town, and all I have to say about that hotel is it's the epicenter of hopelessness and despair.
Oh, you haven't been to Circus Circus then.
But they have. Okay, so fun story for both of you. Sam's Town is absolutely, very, very sad, but it's one of the very few casinos that you can still play quarter slots, like actual drop in your quarters. And they have awesome bingo, because you can get wrecked. Those freaking waitresses know how to pour a drink. And as for Circus Circus, I actually worked there for 3 years and saw my fair share of absolute craziness, especially during the AVNs, which is, if I don't know, that's the adult video. Yeah.
Scandalous.
It gets wild.
Oh,
it
yeah.
gets wild.
I have never been, but I've heard lots and lots of stories.
So I didn't attend. I was actually an events coordinator, and afterwards, a lot of them wanted to go and ride roller coasters or go gambling, and I was there to make sure that happened. And you have to remind a lot of them after they start drinking that you're not part of the community, that you work for the casino, and they cannot touch. Don't touch.
You start touching, Nikki Nose is going to come out there and pop you.
All right, let's get back on track and pretend we're a family-friendly podcast, if that's even possible with two grunts running the show. But so let's start. We brought you guys on because we like to highlight small publishing companies, because I think some of the most creative fiction and some of the most interesting niches are coming out of small presses, because Tor and some of the big companies, they can't afford to take risks because their overhead is so high. So when you've got smaller publishing companies, they can be nimble and you can see some interesting combinations you'd never think of. And sometimes it works and they land it and it's great. And sometimes it doesn't, but hey, it was worth the shot to try. So you, James and Xtina, you said you guys own the company. So how did you guys come about to start this horror company, this horror publishing company?
I'm going to let Xtina answer this. To be fair, it is all her fault, to be honest with you. This is going to make a great book one day. So you tell him.
He likes to say that I bullied him into it. And I don't quite remember it exactly that way, but we both had books under another really small publishing house that turned out to be a scam or something, and
Nicely put.
Yeah. And that's how we met. And actually, the podcast that we do, the Panic Room Radio Show, that was through that other publishing house. And James was a guest on the show. That's how we met. And it was atrocious. Oh, the show was so bad. It was just painful. I'm really happy.
To be fair, no, we were good. We were good.
Yeah.
The rest of the show was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. James was a guest, and I never let him go after that. I was like, no, you have to come back, and we have to, try to fix things. And we're still going after 6-7 years or something with the podcast.
The podcast started before the company.
Right,
so the podcast is in its 8th year already. We've just done 326 shows, which is far too many, to be honest, far too many.
But it was after that bad experience with the publishing house that we decided we were going to do everything that they didn't do, and it's pretty much.
Well, plus, I'd had sort of bad experience with my first two books I had published through different publishers. One was the one she just mentioned. Another one was another one. I'm not going to mention. I'm not going to name names and point fingers. I'm too professional for that. But they know who they are. And I had bad experiences just with everything. And yeah, as Xtina said, I said, well, okay, if we just do everything opposite to that, then we should be all right. And we started with 5 books, 2 of which were mine, just to make up numbers. I think the other 2 were David Owain Hughes. Bless him, he's still with us. And I think Carlos Colon was the other one.
Dark Music.
Oh, and it was your book as well. So 6 in total.
Yeah.
And we started off very small. Now we've got over 160 odd books, over 100 odd audio books, and some terrific authors like Erin, for example. And we've learned a lot of lessons the hard way through the years. I pride myself on the fact that we can spot a good one. We kissed a lot of frogs over the years, but
have we?
I think now when Erin's book first came across my desk, it was wow. This is we've got to have this. I don't think it took me too long to snap it up, did it, Erin?
Which one?
The first one, the one with I'm going to say his name again, haven't I?
Armand.
Stripper Noir with Armand, yeah.
I don't know. He was that was really my first trek into fiction, at least long form fiction. So he's been sort of my mentor since I published my first book. So he really handled all of that, and I can just tell you that I was doing cartwheels in the living room. Not quite. I have a lot of back issues now, but
well, we published before he published some short stories of his over the years. A couple of his. So we knew him. But yeah, again, one of the things we look for good writing, good story, etc. But we always look for something different. Something we have vampires, we have zombies. As long as it's a different sort of spin. Yours was just different, which was great, and it's not often I get sucked in straight away, and I did. So well done. Normally I get, but Xtina will testify to my very, very short attention span. The fact that if I make anything past 3 pages, it's good.
Well, thank you.
All right, we're gonna, because we got the logo here and the art is too glorious not to share it, we'll put the Hellbound Books logo. And we were recording this in October, and I thought we'd be able to get this out in October, but I didn't realize how much Stabby liked horror. So when she gave me all the ideas, I just kept saying yes, and I wasn't counting the number of weeks in October versus the number of yeses.
I've been there.
So it's going to be an interesting Thanksgiving, but maybe you can listen to this and think about your family right before the holidays, and vicariously live your grudges in the Hellbound Books Publishing pages.
You would be surprised how many Thanksgiving and Christmas themed horror movies there are. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Horror novels as well, or anthologies. I see them pop up around this time of year, and there's
we are just about to publish, oddly enough, an anthology called Happy Holidays.
Yes,
we've got Christmas, we've got Thanksgiving, we've got Valentine's, we've got a few like June Day, we've got Earth Day, we've got a whole bunch of different ideas to have as many different holidays as possible. So again, it's a rich vein to tap, I have to say, because you get families together and there's nothing. Hell's family. His families are awful. They really are.
All I'm going to say is my mom watches a lot of How to Kill Your Husband murder mysteries on the Lifetime or whatever. And so if the stepdad goes missing, I'm telling the cops where to look first. I'm just saying. I feel like she's taking notes, like something's going on.
I actually just ordered a new cup. It's on its way. It says, and then I just snapped.
Yeah, Snap. That's one of the ones she watches.
And then that's how you feel sometimes. I just snapped.
So this is for all 3 of you. So what is it about horror that draws you in, that made you, one, decide to make your own publishing company, and then for all 3 of you to write in that genre?
Erin.
Oh.
She's nodding off.
I
You
think-
woke me up now. Poor lamb.
Well, I was thinking, the chicken before the egg. You guys are the publishers, so I figured you guys were going to answer first. So I was like thinking. I had always been into horror, pretty much since I would say the 7th grade. I didn't quite really fit in, and I don't know. I guess part of my I got teased and bullied quite a bit when I was a kid, and so I guess I sort of found a refuge or escape in horror, and it made me feel sort of strong. It was cathartic. I never thought that I would write it actually, and I never thought. I mean, I always wanted to be a writer, but when I first started writing, I was just kind of who's ever going to see this? But I've always wanted to write horror. I've always wanted to sort of, I guess, I don't know, it's like bloodletting kind of, it's very cathartic. It lets out all that dark stuff. And a lot of my stuff is also dark humor because sometimes I scare myself. And then if I don't start making it a little lighter, I'm going to freak myself out. So I guess that's the best explanation I can come up with.
Dark humor has its place. Anybody that's served in the military gets gallows humor. We're experts at it. So I'm with you. And I keep having my normal friends this is going to shock you. And I'm like, no, you're not. Trust me.
Well, I think Erin's story is, we speak to a lot of horror authors through the publishing house, through our podcast as well, and it is a common theme. I try to explain this to a lady friend of mine. Yes, I'm not that old. Getting there, but still player. You know what I mean? And it was the best explanation I could come up with was it's the way some people like Brussels sprouts and some people don't. People have different. I'm with Erin. From a very, very young age, I've always sort of gravitated towards the dark and the macabre and the blood and guts. And I grew up watching the Hammer horror films, obviously, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing movies as a kid. But it's something that I do enjoy other genres and that, but I always come back to horror. As a writer, that's all I ever wanted to write. I'm also a professional ghostwriter because you've got to put food on the table, And I've written pretty much every genre you can think of for other people. I mean, it's just fine. It's just great experience. But for me, always come back to horror. And even when I'm writing for other people, there's always that. Yeah, there's the dark humor. Yeah, there's the horror in there. There's what I actually wrote a pilot episode for a sitcom for a guy probably about 5, maybe 6 years ago now. And I sent him the first draft. He said, "Yeah, Jim, this is great, really brilliant, very, very funny, but could we take the torture scene out, please?"
I wish he was joking too, but he's not.
It was, and it was a good, but there was humor thrown in with the torture, and I thought I was really proud of that. But yeah, we had to drop that, unfortunately.
Some people have no taste. What can I say?
Absolutely.
I grew up with the Goosebumps and the Scary Stories books from Scholastic, and I would watch the Hitchcock black and white. They're really horrific suspense, I guess, is how I would classify it. I don't know how they classified it, but they used to come on at Nick at Night back in the day. And then I think it was called The Crypt Keeper. Nick, you remember that one we watched? We talked about it with the skeleton.
Oh, yeah.
Tales from the Crypt.
There we go.
With the Crypt Keeper.
Yes. I guess I could say the same. I've always loved horror. When I was younger and I was picking out books at the bookstore with, anything to scare. But I love to be scared. I'm a big chicken, so I'm not like your normal horror fan. I mean, everything will scare me, but I still love it. And I think it might be a little adrenaline junkie kind of like deal. I heard a review of some horror movie that just came out, and they're like, they relied too hard on jump scares. And I'm like, you know what? Any way you can get me to jump, I'm okay with. I'm on board with that. Just scare me, terrify me. So yeah, and I think as well with horror, you can have everything in your horror novels. You can have a little bit of romance. You can have, sci-fi, anything you can have. And I don't think that all the other genres do that. So, yeah, that would be my answer.
Okay. So, James, did you watch any of those older the shows that I mentioned, the Hitchcock, the Goosebumps?
Yeah, I used to watch. Whatever they call it, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which was again. I used to like those bite-sized. Sorry, my phone's pinging. Sort of the bite-sized, and then like say Tales from the Crypt, obviously the Twilight Zone. Creep Show actually is actually on Shudder again. There's a season 4 just started. I started watching that, which is brilliant.
You know Shudder.
There was The Outer Limits, all those little anthology sort of shows. Loved all of those. And used to devour the kids' horror books all the way through to, and then halfway through middle school. I remember one of the older boys, Daryl Nadd's his name, was brought in a copy of James Herbert's The Rats. James Herbert, iconic British author, lauded as the father of splatterpunk, funnily enough. And he was sat reading, he passed it round, he was reading bits out and passed it. And that absolutely changed my life because it was my jump from kids' horror, which was kind of ghosts and creepy and that, to this visceral, brutal, blood and guts, rats eating people horror, which was just absolutely, I thought, this is what I want to write. And it took me probably 40 years to get to a point where I actually finally wrote The Rats, which was my PED, which was about, it's not rats, obviously, because that's been done, which is about giant centipedes, the big sort of foot-long Vietnamese yellow leg centipedes. Because I always wanted to do my homage to James Herbert. And there it was. It took me about 40 years, but yeah.
Okay, we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly show for the man, and I get to be the man this time. Woohoo! All right.
Never heard that before.
35 awesome stories started by one kick-ass meme. It started as a joke. Storm Area 51, they said. They can't stop all of us, they said. But all laughter has stopped when the U.S. Air Force mobilized and pulled out the big guns. However, relentless mockery and derision by the media and the powers that be pushed the dweebs and alien enthusiasts too far. What else were they supposed to do? They said why not and showed up, determined to find out what secrets were hidden behind the walls of the clandestine government facility. Are you brave enough to buy this anthology today? If you are, find out what the government wants to keep hidden. Read Storming Area 51, a Bayonet Books anthology.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. You should check out the book. The paperback copy, if you order it, I just warn you, it is a deadly weapon. You could kill somebody if you throw it at them. It is that big. It was that big. I made a note to myself. Because we've been doing the October as the Spooktober horror month, I actually watched a horror movie on my own. I watched Cabin in the Woods today.
That's one I did.
It's a good one.
It was nice to see a new envisioning of Cthulhu in Lovecraft.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting. And, I'm kind of with him. Let the world burn. I get it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So do you guys watch a lot of horror to inspire yourself when you're writing and keeping your company going? So for either of you.
don't all speak at once, guys. Yeah, I tend to. My default is horror, but not for inspiration. But it's just that people don't get it. I can go to bed and watch some. The other night, because obviously after sadly William Peter Blatty died, so I thought right, good opportunity to watch The Exorcist. And I've watched The Exorcist and slept like a baby, and everything. So I can watch that sort of stuff, and I find it relaxing. I'm working my way through The Strain at the moment. I tried to get into it when it first came out and didn't, but plowing on is pretty good. So yeah, I again, it's a default. Then again, I also like Family Guy and Bob's Burgers and all the cartoony stuff, and I like a good thriller. Funny enough, I watched a documentary on, I think it might be on either Netflix or Hulu, about the food industry. I just had a big change in diet. I've cut out sugar and salt, because I had a bit of a health scare. Now I'm terrified of lettuce. There's no, I kid you not. People were dying with lettuce. Again, there's a horror story in there somewhere for somebody. Because it turns out on the farms, especially romaine lettuce, which is the best lettuce nutritionally speaking, on the farms they have the cow sheds next to the lettuce field, and they are watering the lettuce with the water that has the runoff from the cow shed. They're watering lettuce with cow shit. Am I allowed to say shit on this show?
Yeah, you're good.
I'm sorry. So they're watering the lettuce with cow shit. You can check it out in post. All right. And so people are dying, and they're dying of E. coli. And it's like, what? It's lettuce. I mean, how innocuous can you get? There's people were dying. So they said, you don't buy a little life hack for everyone listening. Don't buy the pre-chopped lettuce. Buy the whole lettuce and wash it yourself. I'm fastidious now. All these years I've never bothered, but now I wash it under the tap and make sure it's clean and dry.
I just had a salad for dinner. Now I'm worried. Yeah.
You will probably dead tomorrow. You will die of lettuce poisoning. So you've been warned.
Well, I just want you to know that, Xtina, you were still expected to turn your manuscript in on time, even if you're dead.
She got some formatting that needs doing before you die. So
I'm on it. I'm on it.
The other one is chicken. Something like 72% of chicken, fresh chicken, that you buy, is infected with salmonella. And I had it from chicken many years ago, which was awful. I just thought it was like, it's diarrhea, what's a bit of, and it was a great weight loss program. I lost so much weight, brilliant. But it can get into all your other, you shut your kidneys down and your liver. And people were dying because they had a bit of undercooked chicken down at KFC or whatever. And it's just like, I'm now frightened of everything. I look at food now, I've got my grocery shopping, and I'm just terrified, it's all going to kill us,
So,
Nick, should we tell him about our boil advisory a couple months ago?
Oh yeah, sure.
The water in our town had E. coli in it, and for 3 days we had to drink either bottled water or boil the hell out of it.
Oh my goodness!
So life is a terminal disease. Everything will kill you, and you just got to accept it. And move
but not lettuce. I mean, I don't want it on my headstone. It was the lettuce what done it. I would rather go out any other way than buy lettuce. First of all, I don't want people to know that I eat a lot of salad, but I can't think of I can probably think of a few more humiliating ways to die than lettuce. Not many.
Attack of the Killer lettuce.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like some cheesy, throwback. We had Attack of the Killer Tomato, so why not?
Yeah, it could be a companion film to that. A double feature, a drive-in double feature, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, followed by Attack of the Killer Lettuce, and then maybe cucumber. Maybe get cucumber in there as well.
Don't forget the donuts.
No, you leave my donuts alone.
You see, technically, and I don't want to piss on your chips here, technically donuts are not salad.
What?
I know.
That's not what I read.
I know. Spoiler alert.
We have a restaurant here called Cracker Barrel that has like a country store type deal.
I love Cracker Barrel. Yeah.
They have this Kit Kat bar that's like 4 pounds and it's like baking sheet size. And I'm just imagining somebody buying that and like, honest doctor, I only have 1 Kit Kat a day.
Yes.
I remember the very first time I went to a Cracker Barrel and I sat and I ordered a beer and I nearly got thrown out. Because they don't do beer. No, certainly the one I went to.
They do now.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, I might be tempted back then.
I was gonna say I do mimosas there.
Yeah, they do mimosas. I don't know if they have
right. Oh, maybe this was over in Maryland, so maybe something there or new thing. It was a few years ago.
So getting back to the horror in Hellbound Books Publishing. So first off, how did you come up with the name?
I have
Oh, is that me again?
It's probably
well,
one of the owners
I
wants
don't
to
even
answer.
remember.
First of all, it came to me, like
In a
inspiration.
dream.
Okay, but first it's a homage to the great Clive Barker, because obviously Hellbound
Yes.
Heart was the original title for Hellraiser. Hellbound, bookbinding.
Okay.
And my mum always used to say, because my love of horror and that I was bound for hell. So it's like a triple threat.
Okay. Most companies are either so and so books or so and so publishing, but you went with both, so I'll take it. Overachiever.
Well, it's everything in the title. It tells you exactly what you need to know. It tells you what we do. And again, I'm a Yorkshireman, so we're blunt and to the point, and that's what you see is what you get. So.
Now, when Stabby says she's blunt and to the point, she's talking about her knives, but we'll go with that. So, how do you guys determine what you want in horror? And from the reader perspective, like, are you looking for certain things? Are you looking for someone to just do something new and different? Do you prefer the tried and true tropes and cliches?
I'm gonna let Christina answer that one.
Oh, I definitely think we are now looking for something new, something fresh, something that hasn't been done to death. But again, if there's a great vampire novel that we just pick up and it's just amazing, great, But everything's been done to death. So if you can make us go, that's pretty cool.
Well, having said that, it's done to, in the mainstream, yeah. Look at movies. They're the same old, it's the same old crap. And a lot of the mainstream books, it's, just look at The Walking Dead, for example. They're just absolutely milking that, pardon the pun, to death.
Yes.
However, we're planning a zombie anthology next year, but we will be looking for a different. Funny enough, I actually wrote a zombie story years ago. I think. Well, actually, I read it many years ago. It's called Zombie Hooker: A Love Story, and it's actually it's in the aftermath of the zombie apocalypse about a lonely guy who'd fallen in love with a hooker, and she was a zombie now, and it's heartwarming.
So Nick,
so just that different sort of twist,
Nick, you are a resident barracks lawyer when you were in the Sham Shield Mafia. So, if she's dead, does it still count as cheating?
Okay. Considering the other person has a girlfriend or significant other of some kind.
I'm watching Stabby while you talk too, so you better be careful.
It's still dead.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, it's that breaks. The clause is broken. The contract ends. Along with your life. Just because you came back, I'll still love you as long as you're fresh. But
well, relatively. Fresh is in the eye of the beholder, really. But I'm just throw this open to Erin, if I may. Obviously, as a writer, you have your ideas. Do you have ideas? You think, well, that's a great idea, but it's been done, or how do you decide what you're going to write?
So I had started with nonfiction, and which is just such a different animal than fiction, because you kind of already know what's happening. So when I started to write fiction, a lot of it was just sort of based on ideas as they happened. I've always liked, and some of my nonfiction articles and other stuff has kind of bordered on ethics and morality and humanity, a lot of especially the sociological aspects of my job and my profession. Really, a lot of that kind of stuff just played into my nonfiction writing, not just as the books, but articles. And so I guess I sort of mixed that with the horror, and there's definitely an element of, like I mentioned, there's a catharsis where you have certain characters that may have certain traits of people that might have upset you at some point in time, and it's fun to maybe think about their fictional demise. So I've been so influenced by just the books and other authors and stuff that I've read, that there's no way that kind of stuff, just the regular tropes, don't really they're going to seep into my writing. I've been influenced by that, like Clive Barker and Stephen King and, all that. Yeah, I don't, I've always kind of liked the idea of like the anti-hero and, the creepy, the scary, and the macabre.
So what do you like writing most? What sort of trope? What sort of characters?
The serial killer had been my favorite, as well as the bratty, defiant one that ended up in Heaven, and then most recently the one that just came out. I really had a lot of fun with the dynamics of the relationship between my succubus and her best friend / girlfriend. So that I had a lot of fun with that relationship dynamic. There was some of that in Stripper Noir, and then some of that in South of Heaven, of course. But her friend was her cat. But yeah, I enjoy writing the back and forths with those kinds of relationships and the dynamics that happen. The serial killer obviously didn't have a lot of friends.
Okay, so this is for all of you, because as a writer, you obviously get to pick your narrator too. Since you mentioned that you have your publishing company does audiobooks as well, what do you think makes a good narrator for a horror novel?
I'm going to let Stina. She's head of audiobooks, so she can answer this one. I know nothing about such things.
When we first started into the audiobooks, I wish I knew then what I know now. I would have done a few things differently. But, they have the audition and I listen to it and I go, oh my God, this is just, I don't know. I don't know if there's a certain voice for horror, because I have had the narrators go overboard and they're like, it sounds like a Vincent Price type of thing. And not all books, you can't do that. I mean, we want, somebody to be able to do the conversations good. And so I don't know, it's all different with each different book. And I just try really hard to find the perfect voice for whatever book I'm looking for. So
what about you, Aaron? Since you've got your own books, which could potentially become audiobooks, what do you think makes a good audiobook narrator?
I think all of my books actually have been made into audiobooks. I know with the first time I was just so excited to have somebody but I'd even written a book and that it was going to be out there, and now it's going to be an audiobook. So I think, like Xtina said, there was definitely a pretty large learning curve there, where I was just so excited that it was happening. I was like, oh my God, anybody is fine. Yeah. But my first book was my memoir, so it was very literally like my own voice, and that was really surreal. And like she said, like looking back on it now, there are definitely things I would have done differently. But I look for somebody that can really reflect what what they're reading. I tend to be a tad snarky and maybe sarcastic.
Yes.
And so that's kind of what I'm always looking for. Personally with my books, fiction or nonfiction, I'm not sure I can ever help that.
And that is something that we do at Hellbound. We give our authors a lot of say in who narrates their book, and they're the ones who listen back for any kind of adjustments that are needed or whatever. So and that's one thing that I think that the company that we had been with prior didn't do audiobooks, but I'm sure that's something that we've heard from a lot of different authors, is that they had no say in any of it. They didn't even get to hear auditions or anything. And that's what we do. We send out the auditions to the authors and we talk about it and say, yeah, that's who we want.
And I just throw this in as I again, I'm not going to name names and point fingers, but I know there are some publishers who are actually using AI to do the audiobooks, because you can get it done free through, I think, Google Play. And it's I've listened. I don't know if you guys ever listened to any AI produced audiobooks, and they're like the AI written stuff. It is just soulless. It's just awful. Although we had on our show, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, we had she wrote steamy sort of thrillers, and she sent us this clip to play on the film on the show of so AI read sex scene. And to be fair, it was the funniest thing I've ever heard. It was, you imagine just like Stephen Hawking reading a sex scene. It was so funny.
It was awful.
Yeah, so again, it's something we wouldn't use AI
yes
to create book covers. We sadly have had to put on the site now. We will not accept AI generated novels, short stories, or anything, because it's just it just flies in the face of what we're about.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to audiobooks, one more about this, because with my head injury, I do a lot of my reading through audiobooks because when I want to stare at a screen to write, I don't have the brain power to stare at a screen to read. So audiobooks let me do both. Do you have a preference when it comes to like the dramatic reading versus just a straight read versus the kind where it's like almost an audio production where they've got background music and sound effects?
Yeah, not really the background music and side effects, but definitely not just straight reading at all. I want them to, and most of our narrators, I consider voice actors. One of the first ones that I was so excited about, and this was back in the very beginning, James, when I was looking for Blood in the Woods. The narrator, there was a little bit that was kids doing a little sing song, and the narrator, sang it. I was like so impressed with that. I was so happy. So they definitely have to be a voice actor.
Okay. Yeah. All right, that's cool. So. I know you guys got a firm, bedtime because we do record at 9 Eastern, which means for some people that's a lot later, if you're in the land of London or other places than America on the East Coast. So you're writing obviously horror individually in addition to what you're publishing. So Aaron, what are you writing right now in the field of horror? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I took I do not have a current horror work in progress. I have some stuff that I had written that I've submitted, and I'm just sort of currently looking for inspiration and kind of trying to come up with my next thing. I put out, Hellbound actually put out 2 of my novels this year, which was frankly not I didn't think it was going to come that fast, so I thought I would have more time. But yeah, I'm kind of kicking around ideas right now, thinking of maybe possibly doing a sequel to one of my other books. But I don't really have anything in the works right at the moment, at least horror wise. I'm an ongoing contributor to some other stuff, so that's always kind of on my plate.
If you want an idea, I have one for you. I can't write for the life of me because I'm dyslexic and it'll just be a hot mess. But I love slashers, and the only slasher that I've found that's in outer space is Jason X, and I was very disappointed in that. So,
nice
slashers in outer space.
Or lettuce in outer space.
Lettuce in outer space.
Thinking.
A lettuce monster in outer space.
I love it.
I think
we should all co-write that.
I have actually written a space horror that's kind of Aliens vibe. It is definitely a lot of work trying to balance the suspense, and that wasn't really like, for me it was just a Space Marine story. It wasn't necessarily leaning into the horror. I was surprised when my narrator said this is horror. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. We've just got dead people, but you get a lot of dead people when you write mill sci-fi. So I definitely enjoy, that's kind of what appealed to people about Colonial Marines, right? Like you're watching them fight these scary alien creatures and you don't really know what it is at first. And oh, by the way, they're woefully underprepared for what they're facing. And I think the mind, messing with your mind on those kind of stories is part of the fun. So I would definitely be down for some space horror.
Mhm.
So, what about you, Tina? What are you working on in the field of horror?
I think for both James and I, it's so hard to actually have time to work on anything of our own. So I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I write poetry, and while it's no longer strictly horror or dark poetry, it's kind of everything I write. But yeah, I'm into the next book, and even though James, tells me all the time, no more poetry. I do have a book that'll be out hopefully by the end of November. Yeah, it's called From the Passenger Window, and it's everything. There's a lot of dark elements there as well as everything else. So,
All right, what about you, James?
Yeah, I've been saying this for a couple of years now. I've been that close to finishing my next novel, which has been on the go since 2016. But life happened, and obviously Hellbound happened. The ghostwriting career took off, and obviously the priority's been putting food on the table and raising the kids and all that stuff. But it needs another couple of go-throughs and a good edit, and it'll be good to go. I don't want to give too much away, but it's about a group of senior people from a memory care facility who are trying to solve mysterious and brutal killings in the memory care home, because being memory impaired, they get close and then they forget, so they have to
I have to say,
and it's based on a short story that I
Yes.
wrote again many years ago, and I just fell in love with the characters. Actually, Xtina said, you've really got to do something with these people.
yes, that's what I was going to say.
And I could see in the movie, it would be Helen Mirren, Morgan Freeman, and Bruce Willis. I mean, I just see that now. Or maybe Jack Nicholson, who knows? But
Okay, I'm there.
I hope to get that. Won't be this year. Hopefully, early next year that'll be done. And
That cast
ready for
alone,
next year.
I'd be knocking over people to get a seat at that movie.
Yeah, the short story was so great. I mean, every morning these people gather in the cafeteria, and what who are you? It just, oh my god, it was hilarious. So, yeah, it was more than just a short story. The characters were definitely more. So I can't wait. So
Me
hopefully-
neither.
I know. Hopefully
So-
soon.
So it's basically 50 First Dates with 50 times the blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm digging it. I'm digging it. The copy writes itself. All right, so this is specifically for James and Xtina, since you guys are also publishers. What book are you guys most excited for that's going to be coming out soon, other than your own? Obviously, other people too.
I have to think of what's coming out before the end of the year.
Who's writing what these days?
Oh yeah, when is Holidays coming out? When's that one due out? Because
hopefully by the end of the month, actually.
Yeah,
Hopefully
yeah. Okay,
this
so
month,
that's
yeah.
my answer. It's got a really awesome cover too.
I'm excited for Playground of the Dead by Stone Wallace. Again, it's a Hellbound Books book, which should be out
Oh yeah.
short instead of any day now. We're used to going through the motions with Amazon, and also Roadkill Volume 8, Texas horror by Texas writers. I'm in that as well, so we're excited by that as well. But as for other authors, I don't know who's writing what. I know the latest Richard Chismar. I'm looking forward to reading that. The Becoming the Bogeyman. Because Chasing the Bogeyman was brilliant. I got a signed copy, which was great. But so yeah, maybe that one by something that's not Hellbound and not me. So.
Or it could be Hellbound. I was expecting you to pimp your own company, but
Yeah. See, that's what I was doing.
Well, I'm just being fair here, So that we are fair to the horror community. We support the horror community. We don't subscribe to the whole everybody's competition thing. But
it's very magnanimous of you. This is my big word for the day.
Thank you.
I like it.
I'll have to write that down so I can remember it. Memory issues. You get blown up a few times and your memory goes to shit.
I can imagine, yeah.
But other than that, I had a blast in Iraq. So we've talked about what you guys are doing. We're going to link to your Hellbound Books Publishing in the show notes with all the things. And you guys are everywhere. You are like digital strumpets. If there's a platform that'll take you, you are out there selling wares, and I appreciate that. Too many people throw their stuff up on Amazon and be like, I'm done. Like, no, there's a whole wide world out there.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, we just ventured into Godless, which is a relatively new, that's my dog, sorry, relatively new platform. And our titles are doing well on Godless now. So thanks to Drew and his crew who allowed us on there. I think it's an exciting new thing for us.
Okay. So as we wrap it up, since you guys told us what you're working on, what is your favorite horror IP that is literary? So, I mean, it can be a movie too, but it's got to be a book.
Oh, for me, and I do love horror comedy stuff. I loved Grady Hendrix, My Best Friend's Exorcism. I absolutely love that. And he did send me a signed copy, so I was even happier to get that.
Wait. Horror and comedy together?
Oh, I love it. I
pictured that as a thing.
I did not know that was his thing. I told you about Sorry About the Demon. I told you about Cooties, and I told you about Extraordinary. Those are all horror comedies.
It's like what is the that movie? Gosh, I don't know. Tucker and Dale versus Evil or whatever.
That was a fun film.
Yeah, it's like horror comedy. Yeah.
That was just
So the Clan Garber is trying to get me to watch more horror. So we'll see. I might have to up my game, but I recognize the names. I didn't realize they were comedies because I haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, well, JR, there's a relation between comedy and horror. Both of them require timing.
I know I've written one space comedy and trying to make everything a double and triple entendre to make the jokes. I just like, that's just too much work. Let me just kill things.
You'll notice that we're also big comedy fans.
Yeah.
I wrote the Vacuum Sucks Hard, Adventures of the USS Big Stick. So Space Marines against Space Amish.
Well, funnily enough, we just earlier this year published of Mice and Wolfmen.
Yeah,
a book of short stories by a British comedian called Joe Pasquale. Look, he's a national treasure. I've followed him through the years. He's just a very, very funny guy. And he brought that to us, which has got a very, very warm. Obviously, there's the dark, lots of dark humor, but great. I'm actually co-writing a vampire novel with him next year. We actually started the planning now. So, and again, we're putting a different spin on the vampire trope. But yeah, lots and lots of lashings of dark humor.
So what about you, Aaron? Your favorite horror literary IP?
It's always hard to pick a favorite when I've had I try to read at least a couple of books a month, and so it's always like the last thing I read. But I would say some of my all-time favorites. Clive Barker, Mr. Be Gone, is one of my favorites. I gotta say, when people ask me this question or what my favorite book was or whatever, it always comes back to Christine.
I just watched that.
But it's the book, and I hate that I identified with the bad guy so much, but I'm just like, man, I had a classic car, was my first car, and it was like my baby, I loved. So it was one of those books that was just really timed great and has just always stuck with me.
You hear that they're redoing that, by the way?
I wish they would.
Yeah, really? No.
I know. Yeah, I don't
leave it alone. It's a great movie as it is.
I have my paperback copy of Christine, which has the covers missing, and it's been defiled in 100 different ways, and I've never read it. It's falling apart, and it's like my
those are the best ones. Those are the best ones.
You know what? Yeah, I don't even want a new copy. This one is it's all mine.
It was
trash.
All right, and as we prepare to wrap this up, James, favorite horror IP that's literary?
So what does IP mean again? I
Intellectual property. So franchise,
Oh, Oh, I've learned something this evening. So yeah, everybody pretended they knew, but they
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Yeah,
I asked the question. You see?
Oh, I totally knew. Yeah.
Because for me, IP is like an IP address, which is your Internet Protocol address. So that's that's what I was. I think obviously I would go back to my old favorite, I guess, James Herbert, his early works, The Rats, Domain, The Lair, The Fog, The Dark. He sort of went into more spiritual and ghosty stuff in his later years, which lost me a little bit. Clive Barker, obviously, with Erin there. I remember I read Books of Blood back in the late 80s, and they just blew me away, absolutely. And I've been a big Clive Barker fan ever since. Yeah, King. Yeah, I guess it makes me a bit of a cliche, but James H. Longmore is a pretty good horror writer as well. I love his stuff.
He is.
I'd recommend everybody just buy everything that he's ever written. So yeah, I guess that's me.
All right. And as we wrap this up, I'm going to give everybody a chance to say where they can be found on social media. As usual, all the links will be in the show notes. So they're just going to give you the places they're most active. And then I will link to all the places. You click the links, follow them along, stalk them give them all of your support and love from a distance. So that being said, James, how can they find you on the wild interwebs?
JamesLongmore.com and hellboundbooks.com. Pretty much.
Outstanding. We're definitely going to have you back for some more horror-themed topics, because I don't think Stabby's going to let it go till next October before we have another horror-themed discussion panel. It's kind of the price of admittance.
Because I thought of another one that we need to add to the list. Killer clowns.
Yes.
See, you think clowns and people get afraid. I think clowns, and I think Bozo and the pie and the Otis Spunkmeyer cookies and the Schwinn bicycle.
Not to mention my last company command.
Yes, that too.
No, because you were asking them what their favorite horror IPs were, and it's all I could think was Stephen King's It.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pennywise, come on! How can you not love that? And then you have the excellent book, and then you turn around and make Tim Curry the freaking the clown. Like, he's already a weirdo.
Okay.
It's epic. And then I was like, wait a minute, there's a lot of killer clowns, because you have like killer clowns from outer space, and like there's just so much to talk about.
Well, even American Horror Story, I forget the one they did about the circus, the clown in that, Mr. Cisca, he was terrifying. He was great. I mean, the clowns is a good one.
So what we'll do is, since the idea came here, we will invite the panelists and fill it with authors from Hellbound Books Publishing, LLC. That's a mouthful. And we'll let him fill out the guests with his people, and we can talk about stabby clowns and space and stuff. All right, Xtina, how can they find you on the wild interwebs?
Oh, I was just trying to look up my links there too. Xtina Marie on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, Instagram as well, just Xtina Marie. And I do have a website. It is not as active as I wish it could be, and I think it's darkpoetprincess.com or.
You should know this.
Yeah, I should.
Really? Oh,
I should. Yeah. I just showed up. I'm in my jammies right now. I don't know what you expect. But Xtina Marie, Dark Poet Princess.
And she has a page on the Hellbound Books
that too.
Website as well, as do all our authors. So
freaking standing! All right, and last but not least, we have the lovely Miss Erin Lewis. So how can they find you on the wild interwebs?
Well, I have my website, erinlewis.com, a page on Hellbound Books also, and then I'm on the Meta Trifecta Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, Erin Lewis 666, and the platform formerly known as Twitter also. I have a reluctant YouTube and TikTok channel as well, but every day I'm tempted to delete those.
Understood. It's a cesspool out there, people.
It is.
Yeah, at some point it gets a little overwhelming. So.
Yeah.
Although TikTok has reeled me in a little bit with the cat videos, so I will.
I will say this. I have found two awesome authors on TikTok, and it turns out that they were pimping their books inside of a Walmart. Like, they just set up a table and had their books. Like, they're like, I don't know how to get my books out there. And that's how they were pimping their books. And I was like, share to everybody. We're going to help this guy out. And he actually wound up writing a really good book. There was one other thing that I found on TikTok.
Me.
Oh, my husband. Yeah, I kind of found Nick.
Outstanding. And you can find us not on TikTok, but we are on Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things: the BitChute, the Rumbles, the Twitter, the Blasters and Blades Facebook group and page. We link to Madam Stabby Stab on Instagram and on the Twitters, where you can go and send her all the hate mail, but she will make you cry, and we are here for it. We will laugh and judge, but feel free to send it. You can email the show with serious inquiries only now at blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. We have a website over at anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades. Again, anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades, where for as little as 99 cents a month, you can help keep the lights on. We do have it on good authority that Nick is going to try to make the website be finished this year. But we've got 3 months left, so maybe.
Well, it's the merchandise website, not the website.
Yeah, I mean, we do have merch, and he's getting the stuff set up, and he's going to draw the art, and you can support the show by getting cool Stabby Stab gear. So that's cool.
Right.
And then you too can stab people with your T-shirt and your cutting wit,
Or you can make it make sense.
or make it make sense. All right, and then. If you want to support the show more directly, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it's for the podcast. And I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink until Java pours out of their eyeballs.
That coffee brand coffee.
Speaking of that coffee, so what are you drinking with the coffee brand coffee today?
So I did Nick's whiskey flavored or bourbon flavored coffee with Dunkin' creamer added to it, the extra creamer, and I was impressed.
Did you add real bourbon?
No.
That's next.
That's next. Okay.
No,
So
I don't touch Nick's bourbon, but there might be some vodka in my Monster.
outstanding. I approve. So if you want to get that discount, it's 10% discount. You can click the link in the show notes, or just use the code podcastgrunts. It's spelled just like it sounds, all one word. Because we're living that 11 bang bang life. Well, anyway. Now I'm fat and old. But with that being said, thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And with that, we are out. Thank you for coming by, James, Xtina, Aaron.
Good night.
We appreciate it. Thank you. And